1,400 incidents, 6 billion breached records. The year of our Lord 2023 has broken all kinds of records in cybersecurity, and not in a good way. I'm not even just talking tech companies, healthcare firms, government organizations, even the company making your sunglasses have been sitting ducks for some absolutely devastating cyber attacks that have seen not millions but billions of people's sensitive personal information posted for sale on the dark web. I don't know about you, but where I'm from, that just so happens to be illegal. So how about we take a look at the 12 biggest cyber attacks of 2023, one for each month of the year, understand exactly how it happened, and learn how to make sure hackers don't do the same to you in 2024. And beyond. Because the last thing you want is for your company to be in one of these videos next year. We're starting off January 2023 with a bang. Twitter, back when it was still called that, just saw 230 million of their users get their usernames, emails and phone numbers scraped off the website and posted on online forums. The hacks and ransomware attempts actually began back in 2022 when cyber criminals were able to exploit a vulnerability in the Twitter API, which was introduced in an update to their code way back in 2021. This bug allowed them to submit an email address or phone number to Twitter and receive the username of the Twitter account associated with it. While no passwords or secrets were leaked, the fact that anonymous Twitter users just had their emails and phone numbers broadcast to the world is bad enough. And not to mention public figures whose accounts may be public, but sensitive details definitely aren't. Infrastructure as code is only growing in popularity, and APIs are by far the preferred way to operate large-scale cloud-native apps. This attack is just one of hundreds of API-related attacks we've been seeing in recent years, which is a sign that you need to step up your API security game. Companies need to continuously test public-facing APIs, whether custom or open source, in real time. Testing early and finding these issues before they go into production is essential when building complex apps using tons of microservices, and you need to make sure your APIs aren't outdated or insecure. It's funny because this hack wasn't even the worst thing to happen to Twitter in 2023. Let's move into February with PeopleConnect, the company behind the popular background checking services Truthfinder and Checkmate. As you can imagine, these services have mountains of sensitive personal data, background information, and lots of other records for millions of people who have had their backgrounds checked when applying for a new job. The data of over 20 million users was leaked online by a hacker. According to the investigation, didn't actually even breach the company's network. What seems to have happened is Truthfinder and Checkmate were storing a backup of all the users on their services between 2011 and 2019, containing people's names, emails, phone numbers, and even encrypted passwords. In all likelihood, the server they were storing this data was unsecured and exposed to the internet, leaving it vulnerable to anyone who managed to find it. You see this so often today with cloud storage, insecure S3 buckets, either misconfigured or using improper access management. And what's really crazy is how common this is. Experts using automated search tools were able to find thousands of exposed S3 buckets containing stuff like login credentials, security keys, and API keys. In fact, the recent 38 terabyte Microsoft leak in September was caused by unsecured Azure cloud storage. There's actually lots of things you can do to secure your cloud storage, like blocking public access, using strong IAM policies to restrict access, and keeping public and private data separate in a given bucket so you don't accidentally leak anything sensitive. And let's not forget monitoring your cloud environments. You need visibility into your whole cloud infrastructure if you want to be able to see when suspicious users are trying to break into your network. By the way, Appsec Engineer has a bunch of courses on securing cloud storage and several other cloud security concepts. Link in the description. Alright, now we're in March, examining the cyber attack on Latitude Financial, an Australian financial services giant. According to their report, the attack seems to have originated from a major vendor used by Latitude. The hacker somehow got a hold of login credentials of a Latitude employee and proceeded to steal millions of records, including driver's licenses and passports, costing Latitude upwards of $76 million. This attack really brings to light two emerging aspects of application security: supply chain security and zero trust. In the last 3 years, supply chain attacks have gone up between 4 to 6 times, and over 60% of US businesses have been directly affected by them. Carefully managing third-party vendors and software components is simply non-negotiable, and you need to invest in software composition analysis, keep your libraries up to date, and conduct risk assessments regularly. But all this is happening outside your network. What about inside? That's where the principle of zero trust becomes all important. It's no longer enough to have just your login credentials as an access control mechanism. Zero Trust is all about giving users the bare minimum permissions to do anything in your network and asking for identity verification whenever they perform an action. This might sound like a pain, but if implemented correctly, it won't hamper your team's productivity while offering far more security than before. In fact, you should check out the free Zero Trust Handbook by AppSec Engineer, where we give you a full rundown of what Zero Trust is and how to adopt it at your organization. Link below the like button. Moving into April, we're looking at the attack on Shields Healthcare Group, a US medical services provider who got hit with a cyber attack that saw over 2.3 million patients' records be stolen, containing everything from social security numbers to diagnostic and treatment information. Not so fun fact, healthcare is consistently in the top 5 most targeted industries for cyber attacks. Once they have all this personal information on patients, attackers can perform highly personalized social engineering attacks against individuals, many of whom are elderly and far less aware of these dangers. Identity theft is another major way this data can be used. The next month saw an attack on a company you've probably never heard of, but you've almost certainly interacted with at some point. Luxottica. This company designs, manufactures and sells over 80% of all eyewear brands in the world, including your Ray-Ban sunglasses and Oakley prescriptions. Talk about a monopoly. But way back in 2021, a cyber criminal found a cloud storage container used by a third-party vendor of Luxottica, which just so happened to be accessible by the public. In May 2023, the detailed personal records of 70 million customers was out in the wild, containing nearly 150 gigabytes of sensitive data. What did I say about those leaky S3 buckets? Securing cloud storage is honestly some of the lowest hanging fruit in the security orchard and should be way up on the priority list for your team. And if you work closely with third-party vendors, you need to account for the fact that they may be the weak link in the supply chain. We're already halfway through the year, and almost like they wanted to set a milestone, the Russian ransomware gang Clop unleashed arguably the biggest, most damaging cyber attack of the entire year. You see, thousands of firms, including several US federal and state organizations, use the file transfer tool MoveIt to transfer massive quantities of sensitive data. Pension information, social security numbers, medical records. Clop found a single SQL injection vulnerability in the software, allowing them to access MoveIt Transfer's database without authentication. This meant that they could pull data from the database, execute their own SQL queries, modify and delete data as they pleased. And they exploited this vulnerability to a devastating effect. Over the next few months, over 2,600 organizations, both private and government, reported the records of more than 84 million people were stolen. It's honestly insane to think that SQL injection, a vulnerability first documented 25 years ago, is still rearing its ugly head today, costing companies nearly $10 billion from a single attack. But here's the thing. You can learn to both perform and defend against SQL injection attacks with hands-on labs in AppSec Engineer's secure coding collection. Check the link below. Anyway, we're rolling into July, and so far we've mostly seen hackers who steal data and ransom that for money. But what about when they actually steal money outright? That's exactly what happened to Revolut, a UK-based banking and fintech company. Since 2021, Revolut had been aware of an issue between its payment systems in the US and Europe. When some transactions were declined, the payment system would accidentally refund money from the bank itself instead of the money from the account. But hackers managed to exploit this bug, stealing a massive $23 million from the company before they could resolve the issue. This was one of those cases where there wasn't really any theft of sensitive data from the company, but the direct monetary loss would be staggering for a company of any size. Now, if you think it's just fintech and healthcare companies getting hacked, I've got news for you. Government organizations are juicy targets for hackers because they store so much uber confidential data on their citizens and are responsible for public works like railways, sanitations, electricity, and so much more. Imagine if you're in the middle of a shower and your local water supply got hacked. We're in August, and the UK election watchdog, the Electoral Commission, reported that they had suffered a cyber attack in which their email servers were compromised, allowing the hackers to steal copies of the electoral registers. All in all, around 40 million UK citizens' records were stolen in the hack. In the subsequent investigation, they found suspicious login patterns dating all the way back to 2021, meaning the hackers had access to the Electoral Commission's systems for close to 2 years. The thing is, these kinds of attacks can be anticipated with robust logging and monitoring systems. Monitoring tools let you define what counts as suspicious activity and even let you set up alerts, so when suspicious activity is found in your network, it triggers a warning, allowing you to deal with the issue in real time. If you're building on AWS, you should start using tools like Amazon CloudWatch and CloudTrail. In terms of just raw numbers, September saw the biggest cyber attack of the year when digital risk protection firm Darkbeam reported 3.8 billion, that's billion with a B, records were exposed. How did this happen? As with most major cyber attacks, the culprit was a very innocent mistake. Here's what happened. Elasticsearch is a search and analytics engine which indexes and analyzes data, making it searchable. Kibana is a tool for visualizing this data with graphs and charts. They're often used together for log analytics, event management, etc. But someone at Darkbeam forgot to password protect a crucial Elasticsearch and Kibana interface, resulting in hundreds of millions of users' login credentials being exposed. While a lot of this data had already been leaked in previous data breaches, there was still plenty of sensitive information here to make this a devastating attack. Human error remains the number one cause of breaches like this, and you can never take the default security protocols in your network for granted. Implement role-based access control to your sensitive databases, encrypt data at rest, and upgrade to the latest version of Elasticsearch or whatever tools you're using. We're in October now, and the cyber attacks don't seem to be getting any smaller. In what was potentially the largest data breach in India's history, the personal information of over 800 million Indians was leaked on the dark web. This happened after attackers targeted the Indian Council of Medical Research, or ICMR, a government biomedical research organization. Reports suggest that they exploited a vulnerability in the system that manages COVID-19 test records. The breach wasn't discovered until a cybersecurity firm found the trove of data for sale on the dark web. All this means the ICMR didn't have adequate monitoring and intrusion detection systems in place, which would have alerted them when such a massive extraction of data was happening. But the scary part is, the attackers stole citizens' Aadhaar numbers, which is India's equivalent of a social security number. This could cause a knock-on effect of online scams, fraud, and identity theft in the coming months. But honestly, this could have been prevented with some industry standard practices, encrypting data at rest, frequent security audits of the system's defenses, and a monitoring and incident response plan. That's a recurring theme we keep coming across with these data breaches. The solution to most, if not all these cases, is to simply follow common security best practices and do regular security audits on your network. It's very rare that you'll encounter a cyber attack that requires complex or totally unprecedented security measures to fix the problem. We see the same thing in November when the parental control app, Kid Security, was hacked. Attackers made away with over 300 million records containing everything from email addresses to credit card numbers. What was the root cause of this issue? Yet again, it was an improperly secured Elasticsearch and Logstash collection. I'm telling you, if you are hoping for some kind of fancy exploit that you've never seen before, it ain't happening. Kid Security just failed to configure authentication for the Elasticsearch instance, leaving it open to the internet for over a month. But 2023 wasn't done yet. Like an aging athlete desperate to give one last championship-winning performance before retirement, we got one final heavy hitter in December. A security researcher discovered a massive database of over 1.5 billion real estate documents containing highly sensitive details of property owners, including celebrities and politicians. The database belonged to Real Estate Wealth Network and lacked any form of password protection or encryption, meaning over a terabyte of confidential data was exposed to the internet for months. If you wanted to find out what Kylie Jenner's Hollywood mansion cost or how much Elon Musk paid in property tax, it was probably in there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of a very eventful 2023. This is one of those things where bigger definitely doesn't mean better, and yet, compared to 2022, last year seemed to get worse in almost every way. We saw everything ranging from decades-old SQL injection attacks to phishing to sophisticated new ransomware. And that's just in the top 12. And who knows, 2024 might just be the year that we start to see more cyber attacks created by and against generative AI models. If all that sounds way too complicated for you, stay tuned, because very soon AppSec Engineer is going to feature a whole suite of brand new AI security courses with hands-on labs, of course. But if you want to prepare yourself for the year ahead or train your team to release software fast and secure, you should check out AppSec Engineer. We've got over 10,000 learners training in DevSecOps, cloud security, secure code, and much more. Whether it's basics or the advanced stuff, we've got hundreds of hands-on labs, playgrounds, and challenges for you to try. With new content releasing every 2 weeks, this is the only way for you to not fall behind everyone else. Click the link below or go to appsecengineer.com to start learning today.